I with Srinivasan. I have autism and ADHD. Autism has many favors. I'm going to use my task to space wisely. Otherwise, we may be here all day. Yes, I need to do my life was LOL.
Imagine a serene pond at sunset, undisturbed. Gently toss a single pebble, and watch the ripples cascade outward. Now, add a few more small pebbles, and see how much further those ripples widen outward. These small pebbles mirror the impact of our actions in the vast pond of change. Each of us holds the potential to create ripples of change, no matter how small our action may seem. To the audience before me today, know that your actions, no matter how small, have the power to effect change. The very essence of advocacy is to get us from where we are now to where we want to be. To be sure, shaking up the world can sound like a tall order. But you don't need to start big. Look for the small pebbles within your reach. These are the seeds of change. Believe in the potency of these small pebbles. Take my personal journey for example. My challenges on the communication, sensory, motor and health fronts are only the tip of the iceberg of what my autism is. Traditionally, the more impacted autistics like me have only been regarded as the recipients of volunteering, not typically the ones who became change makers. So, could someone like me even dare to dream of effecting change? When I reflect on disability advocacy, my mind goes immediately to my personal hero, Judy Heumann, whose legendary activism paved the way for systemic change and legislation, including the Americans with Disabilities Act. Judy was a powerful orator and led protests that had shut down traffic in Manhattan, and even took over a federal building in San Francisco for the longest sit-in in U.S. history. Her generation's efforts have allowed the disabled in my generation to pursue opportunities once thought unattainable, such as attending college. Such legends had initially shaped my view of what it means to be a change maker, equating it with the ability to lead protests or speak out at rallies. But there was no way I was going to be able to survive such crowded rallies or marches. It would be far too overwhelming for my autistic sensory system. Unfortunately, when you have a lot of sensory, social and communication challenges, both society and even some part of you starts believing that you cannot be part of this change-making process. A personal revelation was that challenging the status quo isn't always about monumental actions or following in the footsteps of giants. Drawing inspiration from earlier disability rights leaders, who did not always fit the societal mold of a traditional skill set, I came to understand that advocacy did not have to follow a one-size-fits-all approach. We can reimagine what advocacy itself looks like. Change did not have to mean grandiose actions. For many of us, impactful change could be enacted by tossing one small pebble at a time, and these pebbles drew on our strengths rather than be confined by the limitations of our disability. My strength was writing, and I have drawn on that in shaping my small pebbles. This is how I've come to think of advocacy, as adding small pebbles that widen ripples in the pond of change. One of my first opportunities was being asked to be an editor for a Braille magazine for Access Braille, a non-profit that helps the blind community. My job was to collect and edit short articles from other disabled youth as well as write an article for each issue. The magazines, which were printed in Braille, were reading material that accompanied Braille teaching kits and distributed in remote areas of Africa and Asia by volunteers. Later editions made it to the Perkins Blind School in Boston. It was pretty incredible to hear that in the mountainous regions of Nepal, which were not van accessible, volunteers actually traveled via donkeys to teach Braille. My undergrad years at Berkeley turned out to be fertile ground for many more opportunities. I was entering this university, which was the home of the disability rights movement, and where the very environment, and even the faculty encouraged you to be the change you wanted to see in the world. Protests and rallies are commonplace at Berkeley. In fact, on my very first day on campus, I was greeted by the sight of a student inside a large cage, protesting the caging of animals. So I tentatively applied to be a student journalist at the Daily Cal and ended up writing around 50 articles, many centered around autism and disability issues. I did not expect my column on autism to take off the way it did. I got emails from readers from all over the world, and the articles were being used in disability training on other campuses. During my time, we had the very first disability special edition, and I was involved in disability training for the Daily Cal staff. So I was able to play a small role in helping get disability more visibility on campus and beyond. Another idea I drew upon was that change is a team effort that involved both disabled and non-disabled populations. For instance, I taught a weekly class on autism for 7 semesters at Berkeley. This was a for-credit, faculty-sponsored class, and it did involve a good deal of planning and syllabus content on my part to set up. However, with my level of disability challenges, it would have been a tall order to have taken on all the nuances of the actual teaching in a classroom setting on my own. So the actual teaching was done in collaboration with one or more non-disabled students each semester. So you see, social communication challenges should not limit what you can do. I encourage you all to create workarounds where you can. The impact of the small actions may not be immediate, but can be profound in the long term. To illustrate, the 30 to 50 students in that autism class over 7 semesters will become the next generation of medical professionals, scientists, lawyers, policymakers, and other professionals at the decision-making table. And many will have families of their own, and hopefully pass on values like inclusion to their children. And it felt so impactful to hear from a European student who said that this class had influenced her current research work. So that one small pebble of teaching that class continues to widen ripples that is beyond reach. I got more chances to contribute through my work with the UC Berkeley Disability Lab and the Campus Student Autism Org. My small pebbles must have been widening ripples in the wider world, because suddenly I found myself featured along with 2 other disability rights activists on President Obama's Instagram on the occasion of the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. What an absolute honor. The chance for more small contributions came via invitations to join the boards or advisory boards of disability organizations working on disability law and policy, such as AUSN, Autism Society, Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund, the Brain Foundation, Duke University's Autism Center for Excellence, and Autism Europe. I also got selected to serve as a non-federal member of the Interagency Autism Coordinating Committee, which advises federal policy on autism. Such exposure helped me realize another thing. That research findings were driving much of policy priorities, who got access to spaces and funding, and even societal attitudes. In my writing, I have highlighted how past autism research has focused on using autistics who can easily participate in studies, but then applied those findings to all of autism. If autism research was not representative of the needs of all autistics, then a bunch of us were getting left out of the solutions too. An overlooked insight is that when you work on solutions for the most impacted members of a group, it yields benefits for everyone, similar to how elevators and ramps intended for wheelchair users is used by parents with strollers and travelers with luggage. All this fed my interest in pursuing autism research. Now, as a PhD neuroscience student at Vanderbilt, I am researching sensory issues in autism. I was recently awarded the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship. I'm also a P.D. Soros Fellow and a Neurodiversity-Inspired Science and Engineering Fellow at the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation at Vanderbilt. I love that I am both intellectually stimulated, get to learn and grow, and have the opportunity to be part of the solution. Research for me transcends not just adding to theory. I hope that it will be more pebbles I can make use of, in leading to translatable solutions. I continue to challenge the status quo, and recently was fortunate to have had high-impact articles published in major media. And I see ripples with each new piece, in the most unexpected of ways, whether it's their use in the renegotiations of the Autism Cares Act, or in a legal amicus brief, or inclusion in psychology and disability studies curricula at various universities. As we part ways today, I invite you to find your pebbles in our shared pond of change. Advocacy doesn't require grand gestures, but can be embodied in smaller, accessible actions. This redefinition is crucial for inclusivity. I encourage you to believe that you can be a part of your own change-making process. Ask yourself, what simple step can I take now to start this journey? Believe in your ability to drive change. It starts with a single step, not grand gestures. Identify your strengths. One small action today can boost your confidence and inspire others. Change isn't about the magnitude of your actions but the impact they made. To quote Mahatma Gandhi, in a gentle way, you can shake the world. Let us create ripples together, expanding ever outward, touching lives and transforming our world. Thank you.